Morning. I'll hand it over to the chairman of the board, Alan Greenberg.
Good evening, everybody. We'll call this meeting to order. First order of business will be roll call.
Tom Tickner here.
Joyce Gilmore here.
Jack McClellan here.
Alan Greenberg here. All here. Next would be good and welfare for the public. Is there anyone online or in the audience that has any comments they'd like to make related to the Board of Health?
There was nobody online.
All right, so we'll move on to new business. 1 North Avenue, the site plan review and comments. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the file? I want to start with their comments.
Joyce, please had an opportunity.
Yeah,
Oh.
but you can start. You
Oh,
already.
Well, personally, I don't have any specific comment myself. The one area of commentary that I thought would be important to it would be that of Tom Ryder, Board of Health engineer. Unfortunately, Tom wasn't notified until a couple of days ago. So Jack has since spoken with the town planner, Jack Hunter, and Jack's extended the due date to
The 21st,
25th.
25th?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the day after our next meeting.
Oh, good.
Okay.
So that'll give an
The
opportunity
25th.
for Tom to review the plan. Provide any commentary that he might have. He may not have any, but originally the commentary was due back, we were told by tomorrow.
Right,
It was just too short a notice.
okay.
So. But I couldn't think of anything myself from an admin perspective that I had an issue with. I don't know.
Not until we see, I mean, really no comment from the board right now.
Yeah.
Until the on-site septic system well is proposed.
Yeah.
Then, then we would defer to Tom.
All right, Joyce?
I agree with that. Yeah, same thing that I didn't think there was enough information.
Okay, the only concern that I came up with is the fact that it was an apple orchard.
Mhm.
And I believe one of the components of the spray was
Arsenic, yeah.
I have limited knowledge of arsenic, but what I've been told, it kind of lies in the ground 6, 8, 10 inches down, and it's really not a problem unless it's disturbed.
Right.
So my concern would be, even though that wasn't part of the orchard, that was a section of land where the equipment was stored, where the product was sold.
Right.
There may have been, I'm trying to rack my memory back to the 70s, an apple
Yeah.
tree there.
Right.
So if the equipment was stored there and washed out there, it's very possible that that soil also could contain the remnants of the orchard spray that was used back in that era.
Right.
We have a elementary school in close proximity, so I would be concerned that during construction, what type of mediation cautions were going to be taken.
Yep.
But again, like we always rely on the experts. So,
Well, mainly a lot of it comes down to the engineering components with regard to the design of the systems that are going to go in, well, septic. And that's really where somebody like Tom really needs to kind of put his eyes on it to see if he sees anything that stands out as an objection. Or something he might want to comment on. Other than that, if not, as Colleen said before, our role would just happen in the course of if the project were approved, as it goes along.
so at this time, and when we get feedback from Tom, that's the only note
Mhm.
that I would like to see, or that I propose that the Board of Health make a statement to that effect.
Yeah.
Just so that everybody
The arsenic
knows
concern.
what might be there.
Right.
Well, I can
I
kind
don't
of,
know if a 21E was done on the property.
well, I can add to that topic a little bit. So I have been involved with the project for the senior
Community center.
community center, senior center and community building. And I know that they did testing of the soil up there. Our highway department assisted. They actually dug 6 or 7 holes. And the committee hired an engineering group to come in and take samples. And specifically, we're looking at that. And the test came back clean.
Good.
So as far as that area was concerned, and I think they probably did enough spacing of the holes. I would probably envision that the section that this project is planned for would probably be clean as well. And I don't know if we'd have to still, because it's an out, defined area, right? Separate lot. If it would still have to go through that kind of testing, but I can tell you the adjacent land that's town owned was clean from that arsenic aspect.
Right.
Okay.
So just
That's
that
the only thing that came to mind.
Yep.
And a lot of the reason that it came to mind is because of the close proximity of the elementary school.
Right.
So I'd like to see.
More
Oh,
information.
we could
Yeah,
absolutely
more
still have it in there.
Right.
Oh, sure.
I mean, I don't know if there, what cautions can be taken,
Right.
but that's obviously gonna disturb the land a lot more than what you guys did initially over there just for testing purposes.
Yep.
So I don't want to see anything come back as a problem with our young people.
Maybe that's too where Tom could add some feedback to that specific,
Or guides
Concern.
who to ask.
right?
Okay.
So that one North Avenue is not part of the the community center property. It's
Yeah,
not.
its own separate. It's the edge, every corner of Route 16 and North Ave.
Okay.
It only
It's
goes
where the
up X
old
amount.
house used to stand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
goes up
House
X
in the
amount. of feet.
garage.
Yep. Yep. I was wondering why they would want to do that right next to where the senior center was going to be going, or the community center.
Yeah, the Fino family, they kept that piece of property separate
Right.
from the other because they knew it was a valuable corner.
Right.
So they held on to that up until recently.
Right. And my understanding, that's going to be a bank and a retail. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll wait to see what Tom has. All right. Anybody, any questions from the public? Anything on 1 North Ave, folks? All right. Okay, Board of Health 2024 scholarships. Anyone want to start?
I can start. Yeah. I looked over and read every single one of them, and they were all really, really good. And I tended to like 2 of them because we are giving 2.
Yep.
And my thinking was that the 2 that I thought deserved it were number 1
Number 1.
and number 8. Let me just, as I said, this has been a crazy day for me. I think it's 1 and 8. All my stuff is upside down and backwards, but. Oh yeah, there it is. Telling you, it's been a bad day. So yeah, I liked a 1 and 8.
Okay.
And do you need to know why I liked them? Or,
Probably not yet.
okay, all right.
Tom?
Can we give out 8 scholarships?
I know.
I don't think so, not today,
I'm in agreement with Joyce. This was a tough
right,
decision. I have 4 that are within like what I would call a point or a half a point based on what I use for a point system. It's a tough one. I mean, I'll give you my top 2. I had with number 3, and I guess it's a tie for number 2 at the moment. Number 2, number 7, and number 8.
Okay, so 3 is in first.
3
2
was in
and 7
first
are
for me.
tied, And 8 was in, okay.
2, 7, and 8 were
Okay, so now I'll let you know that my order was 3, 6. And I'll give you my other 2 were 4 and 7. And Joyce, if you want to think of a third and a fourth, if you can, that's fine.
Why do,
Well, only because we're gonna have to work on this and see where the commons are. I mean,
well,
right now,
can I tell you what my thoughts were?
please.
So, I read all of these wonderful things. Everybody, that they had unbelievable high scholarship, high, marks for their scholarship. And my thought was that I think they definitely all have gotten scholarships. The number one, I thought, was a very good, didn't have a higher, as high of numerical average, but had a very good, in my opinion, a very good letter, and she's into health, she, I don't know who it is, health science, and that's what we're about, is health science. And number 8, same thing, the average was high, but not as high as all the rest of them. There was 92.6, and this one was 89.35. So my opinion is that all the 98.6s are getting good scholarships and stuff like this. And I think these people deserve a good scholarship. They're both doing stuff that's in our field. Yeah, thank you. It's been tough. I've been dealing with the 18-month-old all day. So I just felt that, I think these other kids, they've probably already gotten scholarships from their college and from their everything else. And these kids, and I'm thinking they should. I think they deserve it. And I mean, they're still hardworking and everything else, but that's my thought, and I'm sticking to it.
Oh, that's good. And I agree, it was very difficult. It was almost like, gee, why didn't we only have 4? That might have made it easier, but then all 4 you would have wanted to give a scholarship to. And I'm glad that we got such a response. This is the largest response that I can think of
In a while.
ever.
Years ago, we used to get a lot. It's been a while.
Tom, you want to support your
Elaborate.
candidates?
So what I did was I
Three?
kind of use a point system. So I kind of, with the criteria that we have on the front page, I kind of use a point system for the first 3 items, or actually all 3 items. I gave 1 to 3 points. And then I added in a 4th criteria, which were the essay questions, right? For the most part, as far as the 3rd criteria, everybody got a 3 because pretty certain they're US citizens. So I couldn't take away anything there. For the 1st criteria, it's possible we could have gotten an applicant furthering their education at a non-accredited institution, but all of these were accredited institutions. So in that category, they all automatically got a 3. The variable where the points would change for me were number 2 criteria, which is the applicant demonstrating acts of good citizenship and or community service. And the 4th one I added, of course, was the essay questions. So for me, those made up the differences in the points. They all show elements of community service in one way or another. Some had some more than others as far as what they did. And in terms of good citizenship, there was a little bit more in some areas and maybe a little less in some others. But for me, one of the biggest things was the essay questions. What I did there was, for that category, I gave a point system 1 to 5. Because you could have a very good essay and so I made that range a little bit bigger. So that's how I derived a set of points. So, my highest, which was number 3, got 13 points total. My next candidate, number 2, I gave 12 and a half. My third one had 12 and my fourth one had 12. So it's really, really close. For me, it seemed like number 3 was a standout. But as far as the second one goes, I'd be open to discussion because even the people after that were within another point, a point and a half. It was tough.
I did something similar. I did a numbered matrix. And I looked at, what their location was gonna be. And that's how I came up with mine. Looking at what we have here, now granted Joyce has only given us her first and second.
Right.
But looking at what we have here, Tom, you have number 3 as your first choice.
Right.
I have number 3 as my first choice. Joyce has number 8 as her second choice, and you have number 8.
In that tie for second.
Right. I don't have 8 at all.
Yep.
So I'm saying, based on what I'm seeing here, and if Joyce wants to give us 2 more, that could change things. But I'm seeing 2 people voting for 3 and 2 people voting for 8.
Yeah.
And I agree, they were all excellent.
Yeah.
They all had everything that we were looking for, and ironically, another scholarship that I was involved with this year, for the Brothers of the Brush, we had the same thing. If we could have given, everyone that applied, they all had everything we were looking for. So, like I said, just based on what I'm seeing here, Tom and I have number 3 as our first choice. Joyce, you have number 8 as your second choice. And Tom, you have number 8 as your third, fourth. I'm saying that's how we go. They each have 2 votes. 8 has 2 votes, 3 has 2 votes.
Is your middle name Solomon?
I'm good.
Here's what it is.
I'm good with that. I mean,
Good.
I'm good with that.
Tom,
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. That makes
Okay.
perfect sense. Yeah.
so 3. Number 8. Congratulations. Thank you very much to E.L. Harvey and Sons for funding.
Right.
Yes. Yep. And so, because we have the 2 candidates, just for general knowledge, these will be 2 $500 scholarships that'll be awarded. Yeah. Right?
Nope.
Oh, what is it? I'm sorry.
Say 2 500?
Yeah,
Thought there was a-
1,000.
Oh, I'm sorry.
1,000, yeah.
Correct that. 2 $1,000 scholarships.
Yeah,
This is what happens
better.
when we overlap,
Yes.
right?
I thought it was.
Do you want me to announce the names or no?
Why not?
All right,
You're
so
the only one that knows their name.
that's right. So the first candidate that got accepted for the scholarship is Ryan Rock.
What is it?
Congratulations, Ryan.
Rock. RYAN, correct.
And is that a girl, Ryan, or a?
Does it matter?
No, I
Moving on.
No, I just wondered.
Next one is Peyton Perino.
P-E-Y,
Oh, congratulations, Ryan and Peyton.
Marino, M-A-R-I-N.
PARRINO.
Say it to me again, Peyton, say it again. Oh, okay.
Any comments from the public or from the audience?
Nobody here is related.
All right, we'll move on.
Thank you.
Great.
All right, so we're at agenda item number 5, old business. Under this category, I propose that we move B and C to the bottom. And I will not take part in those discussions. I will
Okay.
gracefully exit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Easy-
All right,
Easy
so-
for you to say.
I said gracefully. Okay, so continuance on blasting concerns and tight tank install at 4549 Uxbridge Road. Sir, and if you'd like to identify yourself for the
Sure.
public, please.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sean Reardon. I'm an engineer with Tetra Tech. We're an engineering firm out of Marlboro. I've worked with the Meehan Group for several years, and I'm sort of picking up for the role that John Nenart left. So getting up to speed on several different issues, among them 45, 49 Uxbridge Road. So
Oh, welcome.
Colleen and I and Jack have had conversations about several things, and we've been working cooperatively on that for a couple weeks now.
Great.
So I'm happy to answer any questions and provide an update. First of all, we've just in the way of sort of the way things are going, we've done the first round of blasting. So the bulk blasting is completed. Now what happens after that first round of blasting is done, you can imagine it loosens up a lot of rock. That rock has to be manually removed. So that's the process we're in right now. What's left over is things that didn't get broken up to the extent that we needed in the first round, because they try to keep everything small to keep it contained. So what we'll have is a second phase of blasting, which is just to get the things that didn't get cleaned up in the bulk effort. As part of our Conservation Commission approval, we had agreed to do some pre-blast testing, which we've done. We've also agreed to do some a round of post-blast testing at 45 days after we complete the blasting, and that 45 days is on the recommendation of our hydrogeologist to say how long would a contaminant that if it originated at our blast site, how long would it take to manifest itself in the wells downstream, and he recommended 45 days.
And just to clarify that for everyone listening, the type of testing we're referring to is
It is a suite of testing that we did, that we developed and submitted to Colleen and to the neighbors. It includes the normal suite of drinking water parameters, and we also included like things that are associated with blasting, like nitrates and things like that. So pretty comprehensive suite of testing.
okay.
Would you have any problem with doing another set of testing a little bit farther down the road after 45?
Yeah, and here's why, because right now we have no reason to expect any issues. And I do expect that when our first round of testing, when our pre-blast testing, we found some situations that had high bacteria counts. So what I don't want to do is automatically sort of create another set of
Parameters.
tests out there that could cause concerns that are unrelated to us. So
Right.
what I suggested in talking with Colleen is when we get the first round of post-sampling, post-blasting tests back, we'll have our hydrogeologist review it and see if there's anything of consequence. We'll report back to you on what our findings are. And then if there's something that presents itself as being an issue that was logically created or could have been created by us, happy to do a second round of testing. The only thing I would say is we're treating all of it, well, at least I'm personally treating all this testing as if it's personal information. So I would look to get a release from the individuals that before I share that information with anybody, that I'd get an authorization from the homeowners for me to share that information.
Which I personally would understand, and I don't think any of the homeowners would have a problem with that.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll send out as part of that notification for the post-testing, post-blast testing, we'll also ask for a release to share that information so we can convey it to you guys.
I may defer to Colleen at this point. I know you two have been kind of talking closely, and there's been some few points that have gone back and forth, so I may defer to your commentary.
Yeah, no, Sean and I discussed what Sean just said, and I thought that it was reasonable to wait to see what the post-blast test results are.
Yep.
And then we can have a discussion on the difference between the pre-blast testing and the post-blast testing. We can discuss what that outcome is, and if there is a need, or if we can directly correlate, additional, issues with the on-site, with the wells and tie it directly to the blasting, then Sean and I can have a discussion as far as, timeline for additional testing.
Yeah,
Did you happen to raise the discussion that Tom Ryder was involved with regard to the concern residents had with regard to the timeline as to when elements may show up, that these things work, as Tom quoted, the time frame is in inches. So it could be months before certain things show up. So I know our engineer thought it was actually be very reasonable to go well beyond 45 days to really get a full handle on what the effects of the blasting may or may not have
Yeah.
done.
We're happy to extend that period. So I think we're almost sort of there right now, because by the time we start till we finish, there's probably going to be 30 days or so, 45 days there. So our window would actually have been 90 days from when we started, but 45 days from when we finished. So we have a pretty good window of potential opportunity for something to manifest itself.
Well, so let me throw this out at you just to get your take on it. What if somebody had indicated that it could be upwards of 6 to 10 months before something could show up in somebody's water? What would you say to that?
I would say 6 to 10 months is probably a little long, because we're only maybe a couple hundred feet away from where the wells are.
Yeah.
But it is groundwater. It is through fractured rock. It is through different types of soils. So, conceivably, I mean, when I talked to our hydrogeologist, it could be anywhere from 30 to, he was saying more like 200 days or 180 days. But, it is geology. It's a very inexact science.
Right.
Fortunately, it's something that we'd be looking for sort of trace elements of, and if it shows up, I would expect it to show up within 45 days of when we finish.
So if someone were to ask you if after the fact, after the post-blast testing is done, if somebody said, from a comfortability perspective, it would be really comfortable for us to know 10 months out what our well water looks like. Is that something beyond your,
Yeah, I really, at that point in time, I really couldn't in good conscience sort of suggest that anything that happened 12 months earlier or 10 months earlier in an environment that's got traffic, it's got other septic systems, got a whole other series of pathways. I just don't think at that point in time, you could draw any conclusions from it.
Great.
I mean, if the consensus is that people want to do the testing 120 days out, 150 days out, we're happy to do it. What we've offered is what our hydrogeologist, who he's an LSP, he's a licensed geologist in the state of Massachusetts. I'm going to defer. I think you used the phrase, let the experts tell us what to do. So in this case, we have probably the best drilling company in the country doing the work. You have the fire chief he's in charge of the blasting process. I'm probably the least qualified to sort of offer suggestions or offer things. I tend to trust the people that know.
Right.
But I am the representative of the applicant. We're happy to do the testing. We just don't want to have a series of multiple data points with frankly a lot of different issues that could develop for reasons that have nothing to do with us. We're happy to do something to establish a baseline. It was cost several $1,000s to establish the baseline, which in my mind is valuable because we've already told 2 people that they have bacteria in their wells. So there's value there, and then hopefully there'll be value again because those same people will be able to track progress relative to the baseline.
right?
And at the same point, we'll be able to track if we've caused.
Bruce, Alan?
How long have you been doing this type of work?
32 years. Well, when you take civil engineering, 32 years, but blasting off and on for 32 years. I mean, it's part of
You're
several
technically a
jobs.
civil engineer.
Yes, yeah, registered in Massachusetts.
How would you categorize the size of this project? And the reason I'm asking this question is I think that's what's put a lot of concern in the neighbors. Minds.
Yep.
This project is definitely larger than what probably most people in town experience when one of their neighbors, and we don't live on top of each other out here for the most part, is putting an in-law apartment on or putting a pool in. This has the looks of a mining operation almost. So comment on that.
On the
please.
scale of blasting jobs, small, right? But in the location that it is, I'm sure it feels big. But if you can imagine, typically sites like this that are relatively small, if you have a situation you don't you don't blast it. You don't remove the rock. You just move on to a different site. So it's only because of sort of a unique set of circumstances that my client decided to endeavor on this.
Mhm.
He found out it was a lot more work than he was expecting. But the reason I say that it's small is because you most often, when you have rock excavation, it's associated with a much bigger project that has a much bigger budget, that has a much bigger ability to pay for that cost. You know, and then if it's not for that, then you seek to minimize as much as you can because it costs so much. But I would say on the scheme of like what I'm typically used to for blasting, this is definitely on the smaller side.
Okay.
What
What about in proximity to a lake and to residents? Because that, like I said, I'm trying to imagine this sitting in their home.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
the full gamut. I know of jobs where they've blasted 30 inches from a gas main. It's a transmission main. So these are real surgical things that they do. I also know we've been within 100 feet of a house. So that's why you have such the exhaustive pre-demolition survey. And a lot of it has to do with just the nature of the rock, like even the rock that we have on site. Some rock you can chip with a hoe ram, some rock you can't. I mean, literally within 40 feet of each other. It's like, okay, that rock we can work with, that rock we can't. So it's that kind of a situation.
okay, what is the duration of this project?
So we're hoping, so the first phase of blasting is done. So the bulk blasting, we probably have like 3 to 5 days of work left. The question is when that gets done. Now it's looking probably like in 2 to 3 weeks or so, before we get everything cleaned out. So if you can imagine, we even have to blast for utility trenches. So we have drain lines going in, we have other stuff. So we have to literally blast holes for catch basin locations, blast holes for drain pipes. So that's sort of the last little bit of work that we have to do.
Okay, so this isn't something that's gonna go on for another 3 months,
No, gosh, no,
another 6 months.
no.
The heavy rock moving is gonna be done.
I'd say 90% of the volume has been dislodged and cracked. So we probably get about 10% of the total volume left to
And
deal with.
is all that being stored on site?
Right now, it's being processed on site and stored. Yes. Yep.
Any idea how many tons?
No idea.
Next question would be, was the lake water in general tested pre-blasting?
No. No. And the reason for that is the groundwater wells are much better indicators for anything that's in the groundwater than the surface water would be. So the groundwater is, and in fact, the wells are on the way to the lake. So they have to, anything that originates at our site would have to pass through the wells to get to the lake. And surface waters are real tough because they're exposed to so many different things.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Had some issues there with catch basins. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
The select board
Yeah.
representatives have been working with the state.
Yeah.
Department to try to correct some of those issues.
And again, keep in mind that the intent is that everything that gets used to blast is consumed in the operation. I mean, nobody wants to leave material behind because the material is so expensive that, you know, it's very, very surgically done so that, you know, whatever you use is consumed in the process.
Okay, so once the blast is, for lack of a better word, ignited, these chemicals that are used to create the blast.
Yep.
Have been exhausted.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. That might be something that the public, the neighbors aren't aware of, the chemistry that takes place.
I mean, in fairness, it's a little murky to me as well. I just, it's so religiously regulated. And you can see there's very, very few suppliers of these materials, right? And it's these people that just know exactly what they're doing, and I can't even touch their level of understanding. So, like the guys from main drilling and blasting, they literally have seen everything. We had a 40B project in Saugus. we actually asked Main Drilling and Blasting to come in and speak to the ZBA. Because, there was a lot of concern in the neighborhood. We had residents that were within 200 feet. We had a gas transmission main. This wasn't the 30-inch one, but we had it within a couple 100 feet. So people were concerned about that. It was right after the stuff happened,
Oh, in Lawrence.
in Lawrence.
Right?
So, yeah,
Lawrence, yeah.
so it was a lot of,
Yeah, people were nervous.
but it's shocking how much these guys can do with what they do. And I wouldn't think of a better resource within that business than that.
Okay, what is your deployment with this project? How long is that gonna go on? Are you with this project until it's complete?
As far as I know.
Okay.
I am a consultant, so it's a little bit
Yeah,
beyond me, but,
is that 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 2 years?
well, if you define the project as work on that site, I don't know, because it's sort of an evolving landscape. We do have 2 permits in place with Conservation Commission and with the Planning Board to construct essentially a parking lot to serve the building that's the smaller building that's right in the middle. Involves a crossing of a stream, so we have a box culvert that's got to go in. It's a temporary roadway going up the back. So that's the project in my mind. Unfortunately, I got brought in because there was a lot of things that didn't happen the way they were supposed to. There were some issues with Conservation Commission. There were some issues with Mass DOT. Right now, we're trying to close the issues with Mass DOT. We're really close with getting an access permit from them because it's a state highway. So our driveway was never permitted properly with DOT. So we're currently doing that. After we do that, we need to go back to the Conservation Commission and back to the Planning Board. Because the Department of Transportation has asked us to make certain changes to administer those changes. So we'll be back in front of them. But that project, I would imagine, is going to be done within 6 months, I hope.
Okay, the reason I ask is obviously you and Colleen have a good line of communication.
Yep.
So when you find that person on both ends, it's always good if that relationship continues until the project is complete.
I've worked for Kevin for 5 years now, 4 years now. I hope to be working with him for another 20. So
Okay.
I don't work for Kevin. I am a consultant he uses in several different applications, but
Sure.
I enjoy working with them and it's a great relationship. I appreciate him. So I hope it continues.
Well, we
That's my
appreciate
intent.
you coming in and, going back and forth with our representative Colleen, and we want to see that continue.
Happily.
Probably the only other thing I have at this time is again, I appreciate the fact that you're staying open to future testing.
Mhm.
I think that is a concern of the residents. They don't want it to be 45 days and done. But you brought up some very good points that over time, there are other things that could influence the water testing that come from the surrounding environment.
Yeah.
So, in all fairness, at this time, I would say that we're going down the right path. But I want to make sure that the residents are comfortable with how things progress. So thank you for, making the statement that this is a workable relationship.
Yep.
And, we're gonna monitor things. One of the things that I didn't think about when we were listening to our engineer at the last meeting was the fact that until you get some results, it's kind of hard to make a decision as to what the next incremental test should be.
Right.
So that takes a little bit of interpretation when we get that first round of testing.
Yeah. And it should start with someone more qualified than me. Issuing some sort of a memo or report. So I'm surrounded by really smart hydrogeologists and geologists, right? All these folks do is work on hazardous waste stuff, which is all, how does contaminant move through soil and groundwater usually? So they know what to look for. They know what to test for. They know how long to do it. And So I'm gonna trust them, at least initially. Doesn't mean they're always right or I always agree with them, but then we have a conversation about it. So I envision a similar thing. I'll work with our folks. We'll get the analysis back. We'll get the approval from the homeowners to share that information. Then he'll come back to me and you with a memo or something to that effect that you guys can put in the record that justifies what our position is. And if it is to do additional testing, he'll say, do this additional testing for these parameters at this time.
Yeah, and we will speak up.
Yeah.
You know, we will definitely, participate in the conversation and the determination as to how to best represent, the residents and to, put their mind at ease.
Like for each round of testing is about $500. So I would imagine and a lot of that's predicated on the number of tests that you do. So even at a minimum, coming out of the first round of post-blast testing, we'll have a target for what we want to look at rather than the full suite of things. Maybe we can eliminate 2/3 of those and bring the cost down. But, what I look for as an engineer is a reason for doing something. So, and if I could give sort of solace to the neighbors, or if I believed I could, with closure, I guarantee you, Kevin would say, just go ahead and do it. But my problem is, no matter what happens the second time around, I don't think I can give any more closure the second time around than I could after the first round, just because it's all a matter of what the numbers show. So I think the best course of action is do our post-blast testing, see what it says, give it to the smart people to tell us what to do next, and then you and I can both react to that.
Given the discussion we had with Tom at the last meeting, would there be a benefit in maybe having their SME connect with Tom to kind of talk a little bit?
Talk, to me, I don't like talk as an engineer. I want it on paper. Because it's like, because people hear things differently, people understand things differently. If it's on paper, the person
agree.
saying it
Yeah.
knows it's going on paper, knows it's going into the record. Everybody can see what's on the paper so that the residents can see it. Your representatives can see it, you all can see it, and everybody's looking at the same information rather than having, some behind the scenes conversation and all of a sudden something doesn't get put in there because two people agreed, but those two people aren't, neither of them is a neighbor, neither of them is a resident. So I'd rather just say, we've got a qualified person that I trust. We'll put his opinions on paper, and this guy testifies in court all the time. And then your folks can take a look at it and we'll see what comes from it. Now, I'm hoping that nothing comes from it, but we're open to anything that comes next.
Am I to understand that's a project for housing? Over 55 housing or something?
No, all it is a parking lot right now.
Oh, because
So-
somehow or other, I heard that it was a,
No. The only project right now is there's 4 buildings on site. There's the 2
Right,
up
yep,
front.
yep.
And then there's one sort of setback just a little bit, and then one up on the top of the hill, the old skate park.
right, yeah,
So that building that's set back in between the 2 ones up front has 7 garage doors, no way to get to them. Just a big pile of rock in front of 7 garage doors. So the whole idea here is to provide access to those doors. So we can use that building for what it was intended for. It's probably going to be like these, storage of equipment or storage of, given Kevin, it could be life-size figures of Star Wars or, so I mean, it could literally be anything. So, but the bottom line is right now you walk up on the hill and you see a building that 7 garage doors and all it has is just a big rock in front of it. Well, right now it's been taken down, but the goal is to build a parking area in front of that to access those doors. No other projects. That's it.
I was hoping they were going to do another skate park up there.
Colleen?
Just so that the board is aware, I did reach out to Mr. Matthew Murray at the DEP. He's the code compliance and enforcement from the code compliance and enforcement unit.
Yeah.
And I spoke with him, great reference, very informative, echoed a lot of what Sean just said, and also spoke very, very highly of main drilling and blasting, said they were the best in the area. I explained to him about the residents' concerns and the additional testing and whatnot and everything, and he agreed about the 45 days, see what the results were then. He also let me know that any of the information that we get back, he's more than happy to take a look at it for the board and to also advise the board as well. But he was very positive about the main drilling and blasting, said they were the best in the area. He also said that what Sean said, that any blasting agent that they use is almost always consumed in the blast. He said, so there shouldn't be any concerns for the agents that he used. They usually just consume it in the blast. He said, but anything is possible. You know, and it's the testing that's going to provide us with the answers to the questions that the people have.
We haven't touched on the tight tank.
Yep.
Still trying to solve that problem. So to help the smaller building of the two up front, we found a cesspool when we went to remove the rock, right in the middle of the top of the hill in a cell of soil is a cesspool. Didn't know it was there. So now we've got to figure out what to do with it. We've got about a 3-week period before we have to figure out what to do with it. I'd hate to do a temporary solution if I could figure out a permanent solution. Problem I've got is I haven't figured out a permanent solution yet. The good news is we have 2 septic systems up between the skate park and the other building, the bigger building out front, that are both designed, thanks to Jack provided this information, designed for 29 employees. There's no conceivable way there will ever be 58 employees working on that in those 4 buildings. No conceivable way. So what I was hoping to do was take the small flow that's coming out of the small building out front and find a way to get that up into the septic tank for the larger building next to it and sort of treat it as one unit that said, okay, well, for these 2 buildings, you can't have more than 29 employees, which to me is, I mean, I think there are maybe 4 there now, 5, is the ideal solution. The only problem is I really haven't figured out a way to get there. So
That cesspool is obviously not in use anymore, right?
no, it's currently in use.
It is an active cesspool.
Yes, yeah.
And utilized by
The
buildings.
space above so that smaller building to the left.
Yep.
Has 2 garage bays and some space up above it.
connected to that area. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
Okay, I guess my first question is, so the cesspool that you uncovered is functioning.
correct.
The other 2 septic systems that you're proposing to hopefully find a way to get the surge from that building up to, do we have Title V's?
Yes.
Yes. Okay,
Yeah, and Jack provided them to me.
no, that's good.
Yeah. It was great. It's like jackpot.
Yeah, no, that, hey, we love it when all the paperwork gets to us.
Yes.
Um,
Great as-built plan. It was perfect. Yes, wonderful.
Okay.
Yep.
Steve Donatelli was also welcome.
Yep.
too.
I mean, I've been challenged with finding a traditional solution for that building on its own. I don't know how to solve that problem.
Okay,
I mean, the rock is everywhere.
yeah,
So,
no. So that's ongoing.
Yeah, you have no
And in
action.
the meantime, it's functioning.
Yep.
We have
They're
all our,
maintaining.
yeah, we have all our paperwork for the other septic systems on the property.
Do we know the depth of that?
Cesspool?
Yeah.
It's about, from what I understand, it's like 6 to 8 feet deep. Didn't have a cover on it. So the first thing I said, cover that.
Yeah.
Think of a worse way to go.
Okay, so you've witnessed. the
Steve
cesspool.
went up, yep, Steve took a look at it.
I mean, it isn't surprisingly, I mean, there's no evidence of breakout, no evidence or anything
Yeah.
like that. So
Yeah.
it's
Somehow
Natural
those-
bacteria works well.
Somehow those old farmers managed to make those things work long before we had civil engineers.
well, I was telling Colleen, I specifically remember mowing our backyard. And every time I went over the cesspool, it was like, you had to go really slow because the grass was so thick.
Anything else on this topic?
Really?
So continue on.
Yep,
As
the
we're
line of
progressing.
communication's been established.
You know, we'll keep, you're obviously gonna keep the residents informed and we're gonna.
Yep.
Well, information we learn, we'll make sure that we keep them informed. And, you know, we'll work our way to the other side of this.
Yeah, the only thing that's a little bit sort of awkward is our condition for post-blast testing is with the Conservation Commission. So we don't have any action in front of you just yet. So what I'll probably do is submit anything we do through the Conservation Commission.
Well, we're very fortunate that Jack has a great relationship with conservation.
Yeah.
So we're all good. That'll work fine. Well, thank you so much for
All right,
coming in. We
great.
look forward to
Thank you.
talking
Thank you.
with
All right,
you
you guys,
in the
thank you
future.
very much.
All right, thank you, sir.
Oh,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Appreciate it.
That was a great job on the decision process. I was like, I was listening to the rating. I was like, oh, how's this gonna go? And then you came up with the solution. I was like, oh, perfect.
Solomon,
We've done it a
Thank
few
you.
times. All right. Sir, before we go on, is there anything we can assist you with?
I was, Hastings Street.
the 30,
Washington and Hastings Street.
I don't think that's on the agenda tonight.
Not by Hastings Street now, just the blasting one.
yeah.
So you're all done, you're not reviewing,
Yeah, I'm not saying we're done with that topic.
right, so that, I just had a question on the detention, the settling base on that. That there was new information that came to the Concom, Concom has signed off on it. The planning board has signed off on it. But. the new
Before you go any further, could I ask Mr. Chairman if he comes up to the microphone? Because verbiage from the audience does
Yep,
not get picked up on the
absolutely. Please, sir.
recording.
I'm
That'd
gonna
just
ask
be
you to
helpful.
Identify
My
yourself.
name's Peter Coffin, 3 Old Sawmill Road, but in this instance, I'm on a butter at 31 Hastings Street and to the large development that is being proposed on Hastings Street and Washington Street. And so it's high groundwater there. I've always expressed a concern about that, and the site is getting totally developed from, it's pretty intensive development. And we're going with a septic and treatment plants. But my concern always has been is the high groundwater. And that I assume that they're going to be taking all the soil out because they got to be bringing it in the houses but my concern is during construction, what is going to happen to the site? And Concom, you know, we had our issues and I had to step back as an abutter, but I've gotten an education. So I don't know whose responsibility for stormwater. It's the planning board or it's the Concom. The issue though, in this case comes down to the detention pond. Can it handle the water? And what is the failing settling basin? I guess is if it holds water for more than 72 hours, that's failing from a board of health concern because it might attract bugs. From an engineering perspective, it's got to be able to handle the next storm. So I don't know who is to say whether it passes or not. So in any event, you were very concerned with soil tests, and there was 2 sets of logs of soils that went out there. And I studied that, and there's high groundwater there. And, you know, it says modeling here and estimated high groundwater there. And I kind of made a fool of myself at the Concom meeting because there is a stormwater report, which has a separate soil logs and a separate coding system that I was not aware of. And I was getting all over the proponent's case saying, no, you know, show me where these are. And they're in the stormwater part, they're in the stormwater. Okay, so I finally see it. Okay. There was supposed to be, there was one soil log right where the settling pond is supposed to be. That in the soil log, it says weeping at 22 inches. It does not say estimated high groundwater. A lot of the others do, you know, they have weeping and the estimate is always another like 4 or 6 inches higher. That one in the detention pond does not have the estimated high groundwater. It has weeping at 22 inches. And then when the engineer's report says there needs to be a minimum of 2 feet between the bottom of the detention pond and high groundwater. Well, 22 inches is not 2 feet in my book.
Right.
Okay, Concom makes its approval. Before it makes its approval, we got a letter from DEP after the zoning, after planning board approved. DEP saying, oh, you know, if you have to do a groundwater mounding analysis, because all that water sits there, you have to prove that the high groundwater. So they do that. And they did it in 24 hours. A hydrogeologist, because the town of Westboro, the guy in the Concom, he made it easy to do such a matrix. You know, you fill in these 6 factors and it comes up with the groundwater mounding. It says groundwater mounding, it will be of 1.9 feet. Okay, 1.9 feet, 22 inches. That's almost breaking out of the system, but not quite. So it's not going to fail from the Board of Health because there's not standing water, but there's water like 2 inches below and the next. So I then tried to get educated as to this. And so then you go to the state stormwater management. They say, how are you going to design settling basins? And you're supposed to get 3, it's not test holes. You're supposed to get 3 core samples. And I don't think they got a single core sample. They took a test hole and then they might have done a perk or soil analysis. And I guess that comes up with a perk result, which could be interpreted to a conduct specific yield, because that's one number needed. And then it turns out that the specific yield that they assumed was the same as sewer gravel, 0.25. And I'm saying, that ain't sewer gravel. So it just brings up questions. When I ask questions of the engineer, the town's engineer reviewed this, came up with a 1-pager saying that it seemed to be okay, and that it passed their analysis.
Okay, now you're saying,
But I didn't have the ability to ask
all right,
questions.
you're saying the town's engineer.
The town's Graves is the reviewer for the planning board,
Okay,
that when I asked the questions of the Concom, at the Concom, they asked for Graves to review, because none of us know about what a mounding analysis is.
okay.
So,
Well, just so you understand, and the reason why the chairman asked that is the Board of Health has its own engineer as well, too. So Graves is affiliated with the planning board. They may also do other work, but they're not necessarily the only engineer that's doing work for the town. So,
no, and basically it gets, I just have a question that I'd want to ask an engineer, right?
right.
All right, give
But-
us that question, please,
Okay,
because we will,
Yes.
we've sort of taken this and it wasn't on the agenda
yes,
because we want to be respectful.
I appreciate that.
So if you give us that question, we will do our best to get an opinion from the Board of Health engineer
Okay,
and get that back to you.
all right. Can I give that in a written statement in 48 hours? Because then that, as he said, it's up written down. There's
No,
just
that would
much
be
as
great.
this.
I just want to
I
make sure that I
understand.
don't cloud the process.
Yeah, and I tend to bring up
No,
too much, but no, I have, Thank you.
we appreciate it. So
You know where to find me.
yes, I do.
We actually thought you were going to be at the last meeting.
I was planning, I was. out
Things
there,
happen.
but thank you. Yes.
No, thank you very much.
Yeah.
We appreciate your concerns and
Yes,
Jack,
because,
he's the man.
all right, excellent.
Right.
Well, it's an education for us all.
No, absolutely.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you, Peter.
Thank
Nice to
you.
meet you. Yep.
Good night. Okay, folks, we're gonna skip over B and C. We're gonna go to the Atlas contract for the Mendon Old Landfill update, please.
Yeah.
It is still in town council's hands, so I have not received any updates as of yet.
That's good. I mean, in terms of today.
We did get the access agreement signed.
Right.
Yeah, I did. And I was just going to ask, and I'm assuming you did.
Yep.
Jennifer got that back in hand and.
Yeah.
Yep, we went over and saw Cynthia and it's executed and
Excellent.
now.
It's in town council's hands and the town's hands, so
Yep.
we're good to go.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right.
Once again, thank you.
Yeah.
for your Attempt, continue conversations with, another subject that
Mhm.
could get difficult.
Yep.
I appreciate the fact that, the conversation is going both ways and we're very fortunate to,
Have you?
for
Oh, yeah,
a lot of years of
We love you.
really knowing
Mhm.
Right.
doing what.
yeah, no.
And while
I
we're
mean,
saying
it's
thank you
done.
to you, because I forgot this the last couple of weeks, thank you for kind of stepping in and doing some extra to help Jack out when Jack was away. Because she stepped in and kind of was doing some
No,
stuff.
that's all part of
that
all
was
the
a-
team,
That's a plus, so
all the team.
thank you.
Many hands make light work.
That's right. My nanny used to say that all the time, you know.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the next topic, subscriber trash recycling enterprise fund discussion.
Where to
Can't
begin?
wait.
It's over a month ago, 5:15 as I recall. Um, so I had made some notes and, you know, it was a meeting that involved, myself, Jody Kersey, the former finance director here, Colleen, Jack, Eric Kinshaw, who is the town accountant, and, Sean, I don't know Sean's last name, but he's Eric's assistant, works with Eric, and, Gene Burt, our current principal assessor, was there as part of the meeting. So I kind of jotted down some points and I'm hopeful that possibly Colleen or Jack could fill in if I'm missing a detail, if I didn't jot it correctly.
It's got 10 pages, just so you know.
No, I guarantee no speech tonight. I left my soapbox at home. So to start, it was mentioned that two accounts would be created. There'd be one for revenue and one for expenses. And we're talking now, just so people understand, we're talking about the newly approved enterprise fund for the Board of Health. Be good to give a title for this discussion, huh? So if you recall, at the town meeting, there was an approved amount of $681,200, which actually was a little different than what we expected the amount to be. And what turned out is that they didn't actually pull out the roughly 18,000 that we thought would be pulled out, that we highlighted as a separate line item
Okay, so
on our budget.
didn't pull it up.
Did not, from municipal trash. We expected the amount to be approved for like 650 something. But so it was 681,200. So that didn't happen. It didn't happen the way we thought it would happen. And that would be coming from the general fund over to this enterprise fund.
Yeah, see, I recall it being separate.
We separated it on our budget sheets. We presented it as a separate, but for whatever reason, when it actually went through and on the warrant, it did not get separated.
Yeah, see, I thought maybe it was in the finance book that the finance committee put out, because I believe at town meeting, there was a question why those two numbers weren't the same. Now, I don't have that finance book with me,
Yep.
but please continue.
And I don't know that it would necessarily pose a problem because it just means it got approved for more than what we expected to be approved.
Right. I'm just saying that in the finance book, if I remember correctly, at
Yeah.
town meeting.
Yeah.
The numbers were different, so that leads me to believe that the finance committee understood how this was all going.
Oh, by finance book, you're talking about the report.
Right, that's
I got
separate.
it.
That's
Yeah, the
separate
town,
book,
okay.
but town meeting was a while ago.
Yep.
I'm doing the best I can to recall,
Oh, yeah. Well, you could still have that on the
right, but
book side, but
I don't want to jam you up, so.
yeah, but the
Continue.
the warrant itself, which is a little separate item, just didn't get phrased that way. But so, and then we went into talking about the before sub accounts that would kind of come from this
Four,
or what I'm calling sub accounts.
yep,
There'd be one for trash disposal. There'd be one for trash collection. There'd be one for trash administration. And there'd be one for trash stickers. I jotted that correctly, right?
Yes.
Okay.
can you give me that again, disposal?
Yeah, disposal, trash collection, trash administration, trash stickers.
Okay, thank you.
Also in the discussion, it was felt that for now, there would not be any movement As far as, nothing would change for FY '25. But starting in FY '26, the elements would be implemented because they kind of wanted to see, and correct me if I'm wrong, they kind of wanted to see how things would advance with revenues and expenses as they started to come in. So all these little things about the accounts and whatnot, they're gonna kind of happen as things kind of go along. And we won't really come into a final structure until FY '26 comes around. It was mentioned that there may need to be an adjustment of the rate on the second half of FY '25. And that was based on the fact that,
It was based on the fact that when I took out that $18,000 from municipal trash.
Yeah.
I calculated the subscriber rate as subscribers only, so therefore the rate didn't change. But again, with town meeting and the meeting with Jody and Eric, like, well, why did you do that? You should have kept it the same with the money still in there. But in my mind, well, we presented it as a separate line item, but Lions got.
so,
Told. at the
Right.
Meeting.
so essentially what ended up happening was the town did not account for the 18,000 to be covered anywhere. So that's why it was mentioned that because it wasn't, that would have to be potentially adjusted for the second half of FY '25. Take it as a mental note for the moment.
So does that mean it has to go back to the finance committee or,
So that potentially then would mean that it would go back to town meeting.
I mean, town meeting, yeah. But finance committee too before and then the,
About the FinCom, but I'm not too sure about the role there, how they're playing in all this, to be honest with you. It seems like it's more of a direct relationship. Is how I took it between the board and the finance and the
Yeah.
treasurer collector's office.
We just kind of all need to get caught up. And it's probably mainly me that needs to get caught up because I haven't heard any of this before.
Right.
So I take it at this point, we just keep going
Yeah,
and, we can think about it and talk about it in the future.
well, plus two now, we have new personnel involved, right?
people too.
So Jody is, left the position of finance director. We have a new town administrator who's just started Monday. So I envision that individual will take on more of the financial elements. So we'll probably end up needing to do some discussion with the new town administrator and get a feel for where he stands.
Right, and if this is gonna kind of evolve over 2025 and not really come into full effect till 2026.
Right.
There's a
We
lot
have a
of
little
time,
time, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we have time. Yeah.
Yeah.
and we're not afraid to express our concerns.
No, and thinking about it now, though, I don't, it would have to go to town meeting, because if there is a shortfall in the enterprise account, then that shortfall has to be funded through town meeting.
Right.
So why not not put this $18,000 that you guys didn't want to put on to the subscribers, let it continue in the negative and clean it up at the next year's town meeting. You can do that, and we can speak with Jeremy, the new town administrator. He has a strong financial background as
Very
well,
much
so
so.
maybe we'll have a different look.
If I remember correctly, sorry for.
No, don't
talking
worry about
over
it.
you. That was sort of how it was explained to us when we had that meeting and Eric was on the screen,
Right.
was that's how it was gonna be taken care of. So I don't know what changed. So, I mean, we've gone back to that meeting. We've gone back to the statement. So let's just keep moving forward.
Mhm.
And like you said, we have a new town administrator. We can have during the course of 2025.
Yep.
We can continue these discussions so that nobody is blindsided at the end. And that maybe between now and then, we'll get some resolution.
Mhm.
We just started this half of the year.
Yes.
So we even have time until the next bill goes out.
We could take a picture, do a snapshot in December, see where we are.
So I would say, this is gonna kind of evolve. So please continue.
Well, additionally, in the conversation about trying to cover that 18,000, Eric brought up a concept which I hadn't personally talked to E.L. Harvey about yet because I wanted to have it brought up to the board, but brought up the concept of creating a separate contract for municipal service only. But at that point, we would need to have that conversation with E.L. Harvey to see what that might look like. So that was just something that was brought up as a thought from Eric.
Municipal trash line item, this $18,000 should be in the general fund, shouldn't be, so it wouldn't necessarily have to be a separate contract with the El Harvey as much as it's funded through the general fund.
Well,
And that's the key element, as long as it's funded, right?
Right, exactly.
As of May 17th, 2024, Jack provided us with this, that at that time, we had our collections were $13,000 above our expenses. So I'll be curious to know how much over our expenses we are at the close of June 30th, which you obviously don't have all the numbers yet.
Not all the numbers yet now.
So in my mind, which
I know
that
where you're
may,
going, I
that may
agree.
cover it or a portion of it.
Well, that's what I was thinking too, but it's 2023 money.
Right,
Or it's like a different fiscal year money surplus.
2024 money, so that surplus
Can't
got
be touched by
expended,
2025.
right.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah, no, that's the.
Colin said no and slapped me
right.
across the face.
I did not.
Never mind. I'm not going down that road right now because we're trying to expedite things and keep on track.
Yeah.
So Tom, please continue.
Okay,
It doesn't matter.
at some point, as I think we're all aware, the enterprise fund comes with a requirement to set a policy. So there would have to be an agreement amongst the Board of Health and the Town Hall, Select Board about the, how this, enterprise fund would all work. So that's just something that'll have further discussion down the road. Now, what gets put into it? What can they charge to it? What we're amenable to having them charge to it? Those sort of things that would potentially affect the rates to the subscribers. So, future discussion.
Well, and the timing is probably good where we have a new town administrator, finally a permanent town administrator.
Not
Obviously
good.
need to give this person time to adjust and learn all the players and catch up as to where we're at. So I certainly wouldn't bombard them with this in the next 30 or 45 days.
Oh, no, not at all.
But at the end of 30 or 45 days,
Eventually, yeah.
we need to start the discussion
Yeah.
so that again, they can kind of look back and see what's transpired before they got here. They can kind of think about it and then we can have more discussions.
Mhm.
So the timing for all of this, new town administrator, enterprise account isn't terrible
No, not at all.
because we're all going to be starting at the same page.
Right.
It's not
Yeah.
going to be what used to be done,
Yeah.
So we're good.
Yeah,
Okay.
the structure of the enterprise is, by mass general law,
Yeah,
so
self-defined.
it's,
Right.
it's right there and it tells you exactly what can and cannot, be included as a revenue or an
Yeah, you
expense.
provided us with that.
Yeah. Right, so that's all black and white, that structure is there.
Let's see, next point I noticed, actually, these are kind of questions that came up after the meeting, so I think it was a conversation you and I had after the fact. Could all the, because we were wondering about the extra labor services being put into the fund that we feel, we've had this discussion about well, individuals already perform services for the townspeople. But now that this enterprise fund is established, from a ability standpoint, anything that would relate to what that fund is for could be applied as an expense. But there was debate about whether or not everything that was being mentioned should be correctly applied. I mean, I myself had a view that there might, and I used the term double dipping. I know you don't like that, and it might not be accurate, but trying to still get my hand around it. There was some phraseology that was used in that meeting that had me kind of thinking, okay, maybe I'm a little off, but I still thinking, because other people that do these services that relate to the trash program, we look at as the part of the job function, right? And so the question came up about, could all the processing functions be handled directly by Jack? And we took any of the role that is currently being utilized next door. Yeah, sorry. It used to be in our office and pointing this way. Could that be taken over by Jack? I don't know if that's realistic, but it was a thought to bring it home. So we don't have to
Not a bad thought.
think about it.
Yeah.
So that was just a thought. With the 5 hours currently in the inspectional services account, which is a separate account that logs his inspectional services time, could that be reallocated to the enterprise fund? Was another thought.
That was 5 hours a week,
That's what they allocated to that
right?
title, that element of his title.
So that's 20%.
5 hours, 40, yeah, 20% of his time. I hear you. It's a future discussion.
Mm-hmm.
The rest was just general, I'm figuring out math issues here. I had overall thoughts. Obviously, cost of the municipal trash service, which was estimated 18.7 was the exact number, was not separated out, right? But if the 18.7 was listed or presented in our budget as being part of the municipal and not part of the trash budget, how did this added amount expect to be covered? Well, the first part of what I said would be the answer. I did raise the board's view that there's a belief that if we're to apply a portion of one's salary as part of an indirect cost to subscribers, that since taxpayers, which include subscribers, already pay for salaries and their taxes, this would be somewhat of that double dip. That's my, I don't know, I'm going back and forth. And then wrapping up the meeting, I just kind of got the sense possibly that maybe we were actually undervaluing the program. That's why I'm torn that maybe we missed something because we weren't thinking of it in what might be the proper manner. So that's why I'm kind of half and half here. Which goes to that thought of potentially having to adjust the rate, potentially in the second half. But we'll see what happens with revenues and stuff. Before that meeting, I was really on one side of that fence where I was pretty strong. I didn't believe that should be incorporated. After the meeting, I'm on the fence. But maybe it was a miss. That maybe we didn't value the program correctly and factor that in. I don't know. That's my notes.
If it wasn't for the funds that are in excess every year being consumed by anybody but the subscribers, I actually call it double taxation. Because the subscribers have been paying more than their share
Yes.
of taxes. And the whole reason that we started the pursuit of an enterprise account was to make sure that the trash was spread over the correct shoulders.
Correct.
And we know from history that this year included, any excess money above and beyond the expenditures, sticker money, et cetera, is being taken and put into the general fund.
Correct.
Which is wrong. And we're just trying to right a wrong.
And this is where now I see why I'm on the fence.
So, you know, we'll continue to pursue this.
Yeah.
We have to, I guess, look at the bright side and say, well, at least the enterprise account has been voted on by the voters.
Right.
And it's been supported as presented by the voters.
Yes.
That's further along than we had been.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to make the assumption that if history repeats itself, we are going to have excess money at the end of 2025
Mm-hmm.
that will cover a portion of the municipal trash expense. I can't tell you what portion.
Yeah.
Now, that's provided that, as we've done in the past, we've hit the numbers. I know that this year, when we set the rates, our protection was only about $3,000,
Correct.
which may be closer than it's been in the past. Plus, we did what we were told and we took the 18,000 out. So if you take the 3,000 protection and you take the 18,000, that leaves us with 15,000 that's kind of out there that might not be accounted for. Again, I'm going to make the assumption from based on past history, that some of that is going to be covered. Maybe not all of it, but some of it. So the number that is going to have to be made up at the end is going to be less than the 18,100 that we were told to leave out. So I don't think it's going to be a number that's going to stop anybody in their tracks. And in the meantime, working with the new powers to be and the people in new positions, we're going to get this thing to the next level.
Well, I would say worst case is that if we saw a bump, that it would be potentially a one-time,
Correct.
and then it would even out.
Will
down the-
be
down the
adjusted
road.
because we'll have to address the 18,000 and we can address that in the course of this year. So this is kind of like a trial, you know what I mean? We're all getting to know each other, getting familiar with the enterprise account. And then we'll make that adjustment. We'll make sure that for FY 26, that separation has occurred between the subscriber program and the municipal trash. That municipal trash line item belongs in the general fund, not in the enterprise, and we can make that. And to your point, you're absolutely correct. Some of it is going to get absorbed because historically we've had a surplus. So whatever that number is shakes out at the end of the year. That is the number that you're going to see on an article on the warrant for next year, and we can explain it away at that time.
So all in all, not so bad.
No,
No,
no.
no, the good news is
That's a good-
now we're at July 1st, we're an enterprise account. And we are going to have a more accurate accounting for our subscribers. And that was the mission that the board had.
Well, and we know we're in what, year 2 of our 3
We're in second year now, yeah.
Okay. So we know what our obligations are. And we still have some time left on the
Wheelabrator.
wheelabrator.
Yes.
What, 2 years, 3 years?
I want to say
20
3 more years.
We're in year 7.
2024, is it 2026?
Because we'll be
2027.
we'll be negotiating, right?
Oh, yeah.
We'll be getting together.
Yeah.
So we still have a few years where we already have those numbers in front of us as to what the cost of our tonnage is.
Right.
So we've got time to kind of get the rest of this wrapped up and get comfortable with it from all departments. So that when that new wheelabrator agreement comes into effect, that is probably gonna be about the same time that E.L. Harvey might come into effect. Correct. Right? Because we've got a 3 with 2-year extensions. And that's where people are gonna see a difference.
Yeah.
All right, because we know things unfortunately are only going in one direction.
Yep.
Right.
So that year or that 2-year period is gonna be where it's gonna be a little hard to adjust to those increases, because they're both gonna be coming most likely almost at the same time, if not the same time.
Right. In a way, though, it's good though, if there is gonna be an increase and they're both happening at the same time, so it's at one time the increase occurs instead of having an increase this year and then an increase next year, because
Right.
one is for Harvey and the other one's for Wheelabrator. We'll have them
Those
look
could be
at the same
Two
time.
big jumps.
Right, you know,
Like we experienced at the beginning of this 3-year contract with the 2-year extension. That was a considerable jump from what we were accustomed to. So, we will continue to proceed. Anything else on that line item on E?
I'm great.
All right. So at this time, we have B and C, which I'm going to excuse myself from at this time. So I'm gonna sign out unless people want to skip ahead and cover some of the other things and go back. It's purely up to you. I mean, or I can go see Jack and get updated on the admin updates and the health agent updates.
No, we're not keeping anybody, so we could certainly run through the rest of it and see
Yeah.
those other things.
That's fine.
Don't mind.
Do that,
Yep.
yeah. I'll have one of the cookies.
All right, so we'll move ahead to 6 at this time. Board of Health admin updates. Jack, please.
I only have one.
Have anything to eat?
This is in regards to 3537 Hasty Street project. Yesterday, Tom Fickner was kind enough to follow up and see if Jake Kraus, who attended as an abutter with concerns on the project, submitted his questions, concerns to the BOH office. I reached out to Jay via email and asked him if he had sent his questions and concerns, as I have not received anything to forward to Tom Ryder. Jay replied that he was under the impression that one or two things was going to happen. It was mentioned that the recording of the meeting would be presented to the engineer since all of his concerns were expressed in that meeting, or that a conversation could be arranged with the engineer. In reviewing the BOH recorded meetings, I mixed up the timeline. So it's my fault. As I believe the BOH meeting on April 24th that Jay Kraus attended was the meeting being referenced, and Tom Ryder joined a virtual planning board meeting a few weeks later on May 13th. So I responded back to Jay and told him that Tom Ryder did attend a planning board meeting specifically concerning the Hastings Street project. After speaking with Tom Fickner yesterday about this, we discovered my mistake in the timeline and that the May 22nd BOH meeting was the correct recording of Jay's concerns. A week after the planning board meeting, I realized Jay's concerns were not met. I reached back out to Jay apologizing for my mistake in the timeline and reached out to Tom Ryder via email to see if he could speak with Jay on a one-to-one basis. I also sent Tom a link to the email of the correct BOH recorded meeting where Jay expressed his concerns on the project. I have not heard back from Tom Ryder as of yet for his response.
Well, thank you. And these things happen. There's a lot of things going on, and a lot of these projects are lingering, and we're talking about them every meeting or every other meeting, so it's real easy to get confused. So, no worries.
Thank you.
No drop in pay. I say put him in for a raise.
I think we should put them in for some time off.
Well, that too.
Just took 2 days off.
big whoop.
Okay, so anything else on that topic? Right, Colleen, you're up. Health admin, health agent updates, please.
40 North Ave, the new owner, I've been going back and forth with them through text messages. He did give me the pump and slip. John Gibson went up there and pumped it. I go by it all the time and monitor it. I haven't seen anything on the surface of it. I am going to meet with him some point in time next week. We're going to talk about what his plans are to repair the septic system.
He realizes that definitive time to get.
Yep.
everything.
Yeah, and he wants to. I mean, that's, you know, in the course of my conversations, well, text messages with him, he's aware of it. I did ask him for the failed Title V report. I haven't received it yet. I reminded him of that earlier today that I haven't received it, so I'm hoping to receive.
Title V, inspector was.
He couldn't remember. He couldn't remember. But like I said, I'm gonna be meeting with him next week at some point in time, so I'm hoping to learn that information and have that report. 55 Hatford Ave West, we got new septic plan in for that one today. 32 Hastings Street, Mr. Nenot submitted the plans for a Presby system. And we're just busy with food trucks. Food
She's
truck,
very busy with food trucks.
yeah,
Oh, I know. I think it's
Oh, yeah.
crazy, yeah.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay, so that was 55 Hartford Ave West.
And who, which one is that? Is that the one that belongs to the kids that?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they're putting in a new septic system.
Mr. Stewart is,
Okay.
Yep.
So has he bought the property? Is he?
I haven't checked the registry of deeds, but I
Right.
will.
Yeah,
But it was a realty, it was a
It was an
company,
LLC.
but it was, the address was 6 Cemetery Street.
Yeah, 600 pages.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Alan was looking for the other address.
Oh,
Yeah,
which one?
55 Hartford Ave West, what was the other address?
40 North Ave.
No,
Oh, 32 Hastings.
okay, 32 Hastings.
That's the, isn't that the,
The plaza.
The plaza.
Oh, sorry, Ellen, I'm
Oh,
sorry,
that's
the
okay, it's
plaza.
the plaza.
Yeah. And Stevie Donatelli told me that they're gonna move that system from where it is now. They're putting it
right,
to the left. They're moving it away from where it is located now.
No, that's fantastic. It's nice
Yep.
to know that the wheels are turning,
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
all these addresses.
Oh, are you kidding me? Between addresses and food trucks.
Thank God I don't have to remember phone numbers.
But other than that, that's really what we're working on. And then, you know, the blasting, I mean, we're busy.
see, I didn't see the transfer in the paper for that.
I'll check the
55.
registry of deeds tomorrow
Oh, good, thank you, that would be.
and I'll let you know
Thank
for
you.
sure. Last time I checked, it hadn't been, but I'm just gonna assume. And I shouldn't assume
I know, that's,
because it was, the plans were, he was the applicant,
okay.
is the applicant, I
Yeah.
should say.
Okay.
Also, one other thing too, Jack started to pluck some blasting regulations for the board to consider. So between the two of us, looking at that, but in speaking with Mr. Murray, who this is a great resource, and he was very receptive to any questions that we might have or anything, or any assistance that we may need. He said that should the board choose to do that, because I discussed that with him as well, it would be separate from the fire department application. It would be two different applications. It would have to, because their criteria
It's different,
part of what the Board of Health wants to achieve with their criteria is not part of
right,
the state
Okay.
regulation for an application for a blasting permit. This would be in addition to it. So Jack and I are kind of looking around and seeing,
So would it
It's
be
okay.
safe to assume that we could ask the fire department their application to have a line,
absolutely,
see Board of Health blasting regulations?
correct,
And vice versa.
correct,
Yeah,
yes,
just so that, because for a while,
so everybody's on the same page.
everybody's gonna go to the fire department
well, it's the communication,
and they're gonna
Right.
think that
Yep.
they're done.
yep,
So if there was a notation that they're only halfway done,
Mhm.
that might help catch some of that
Right.
as we retrain people.
Yep. absolutely,
I mean, I'm sure the same guys for the same blasting companies do that paperwork, or the same girls in the office, whatever. You know, they probably have someone that's their job,
mm-hmm,
getting all those permits taken care of so that the people in the field can do what they do. So as we kind of retrain them and it's, you know, there aren't many towns that have it, Jack found one.
One,
It may take a while to retrain the blasters that work in this area. Okay, good.
That's
Move
all.
on.
Yep.
Topics not anticipated within 48 hours.
none on my side.
So,
The only thing I can think of is, the trailer on Blackstone Street. The house on, yeah. Owned by the same person from Megan Court.
Yep.
I know they did the Title V because I saw them on Blackstone Street at the trailer. Have we received anything?
No, I was told he was gonna have it for us by August.
August 6th.
I saw someone sitting. So,
sitting in the cesspool?
yeah, like he took the cover off and they pumped it because there was a pumping truck there.
Oh,
I saw activity too.
And he was like sitting in the tank.
okay.
And this is a while back. This is at least a month ago.
Right.
And I mean, people are definitely living there. They had a party there. this week.
Yes.
Well, I saw a swing set there.
Yep.
Oh, my God, everything,
Yeah,
the
everything.
whole lot is full.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That place is happening.
Yeah.
I go by it, you know, because Fridays nights and Sundays, Vandervox, so I'm
Right.
going by, see.
Now, I don't see anything going on at the Taft Ave property. Other than falling down.
Yeah.
Okay. So did we get a pumping record for whoever was there pumping? I don't remember. Was it Abel? Or was it Chris? Is it ABC?
Well, we can reach out to to the property owner and ask him for the pump and slip, absolutely.
'Cause I mean, there was definitely a pumping truck there.
And when was it?
Oh, I bet you're going back a month already.
All right, because I just sorted my pile of pumping
'Cause
slips.
I thought I had told you that I saw someone there doing it.
Yes,
And had we received the Title V, but again, just like you, everything just kind of gets blended together because these things are constantly going on. Okay. Good and welfare for the board.
I have two. I'll
Okay.
call them community service announcements. So one relates to Triple E. Just to kind of update from the last meeting. So we received this from Mass Public Health. Department of Public Health today, this is dated July 3rd, announced that Eastern equine encephalitis virus has been detected in mosquitoes in Massachusetts for the first time this year. Presence of Triple E was confirmed in mosquito samples collected on June 30th in the town of Carver in Plymouth County. No human or animal cases of Triple E have been detected so far this year. And the second one is West Nile virus. They went hand in hand. It's from July 2nd. Massachusetts Department of Public Health today announced that West Nile virus has been detected in mosquitoes in Massachusetts for the first time this year. Presence of West Nile virus was confirmed today by the Massachusetts State Public Health Laboratory in 2 mosquito samples collected on June 25th in the city of Quincy in Norfolk County.
When I read that, that kind of surprised me. I'm like,
Yeah,
the city.
yeah,
Oh,
I know, it's really,
Yeah.
it's like the city, you'd think it would be like,
this way?
yeah. So,
All right, folks, thank you very much for everything you do, but to
You're outta
avoid
here.
any conflict of interest, I'm gonna skip the next 2 topics.
well, would the board be amenable to continuance of those next 2 topics for the next meeting?
Amenable to what?
To having these topics on the next board meeting? Or would you want to hear with them tonight?
Well, I mean, we could.
No, I'm just asking.
I just think that, given the situations and past discussions, I think we should try to stay on point.
Okay.
And not waste the time. So something is on, because there may be an expectation that somebody will follow this meeting via recording and listen possibly. So
All right, get out.
Good.
thank you.
You know,
Thank you very much. I really appreciate everything everybody does.
All right.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Right. It's over to you, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Oh, hey, wonderful.
That's
Maybe
why
we
you-
should have ended the meeting.
That's why you get the big bucks.
Yeah, right. Okay, so we're going back to item agenda 5B, continuance of tobacco regulations waiver discussion. I'd like to begin.
Well, I think it's problematic to be put in the situation of uh, making it a waiver, because then, again, you're gonna have all these other people that are coming about and doing all these things and saying, well, you know what, I was wanting to do this before and I blah, 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 or, so to me, I think we probably should just say, sorry, kids.
Well, keep in mind too, I look at this discussion, I understand how it started,
Right,
but I'm looking at it as an overall,
right,
not just with one
right. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
particular topic, but as an overall
Right,
from a townwide, any other entity that might come forward.
right.
Right. So I understand where that could potentially create some added, well, at minimum, potentially added effort on the part of the Board of Health. To potentially, we might have individuals or entities come forward looking to seek waivers for different elements of the tobacco regulations. And, the Board of Health would just have to address those. But ultimately, when someone comes before us, I think as we always have kind of done, we look through and we assess and come to a reasonable conclusion on an end result for somebody who has an issue. So, I don't, from my perspective, I don't know that I would have a problem if somebody comes with a request for a waiver. If we were to implement language, we would look at it, it's a case by case basis. And we look to determine if the reason for the waiver matches the basis for the submittal of the waiver. It's not automatic that they would get it. It would have to be based on an assessment of the situation, the criteria, the basis for why they're asking for it.
Right, but then you get people saying, well, you're favoring this guy more than you're favoring me, and I've got the same situation, and I was here doing that, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, there's an argument to be made for that.
So I think that, and that one North Avenue, that's going to be a retail store, right, too?
It says retail, but we don't know what type of
Right.
retail.
Sorry. And that was part of the,
And that's Kevin Meehan,
it is, yeah.
right, yeah.
But, so
I mean, it was Fino's property, but.
So I will say, just kind of going back to our discussion last week and to the situation that brought up
Right,
the discussion of talking about waiver language. I kind of spoke to, from my perspective, what I believe the intent of the one specific element was within the regulation. And from my perspective, I did not believe that that was the intent of that language and how it had impacted or potentially could impact. Because the other thing here is we have an applicant actually where a decision actually hasn't been made on the application.
right,
They haven't been denied. They haven't been approved.
Right.
So and that's kind of what.
that's the Hartford
Prompted.
Avenue, Hartford Avenue West, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So the application is still
East,
pending. And this is kind of what brought up all this discussion.
Right.
Because there was something found in the regulation that as
One thing
stated,
at least, that's what brought this on.
if you went by the word, would not allow that entity to receive
right,
approval.
right,
But from my perspective, I looked at it as the intent. So something that kind of came up in conversation from the last meeting, as opposed to doing waiver language, which could open up more
Bag of
discussions,
worms, yeah.
you know. Well, let's say as a more discussions, more
Right.
things that the board might have to look at and make decisions on, right? Challenges, you could look at it that way, right? And I understand that. A thought came up that instead of doing that, that if we're in agreement that the intent of that phrasing is not meant to do what it did or is currently doing on this particular situation, that that language for that specific element could be amended so that it would include, so that it would state basically a phrasing that would basically, as the area starts, that paragraph says, a new tobacco product sales permit shall not be issued to any new applicant. And then it continues, but after that part, the phrase whose business is formally approved to operate after January 1, 2024. With that phrasing in there, that would mean that that phrasing, that restriction would only apply to those establishments that were approved, formally approved by the town, which would basically be the planning board,
Right.
after January 1, 2024.
So
I
like
understand it.
Kevin's.
There is no entity other than the one that has come to us.
How about Kevin's, the
3537 was approved in 2024.
They got the zoning variance in 2022.
oh,
So
But
if you're
their
gonna go by
project
the
was formally
applicant-
approved
Right.
by the planning board to operate as such. It got their blessing just 2 months ago, a month and a half ago.
okay, so then they don't qualify.
In my view, they would not qualify.
I think you should discuss that with council.
Is that?
Have you discussed that with council?
No, this is just the discussion.
Yeah,
No.
I would do
As you
that.
know him.
Well, it's not even that. It's just that particular language there. You need to discuss, you should probably run it by council just because, again, be far reaching on the application process.
So, well, let me ask, from your perspective, going back to the last meeting, let me ask you, did you intend for that to do what it's doing?
Did I intend to?
Is it
Speak
your
that-
intent that that element of the regulation was gonna have the effect it's having on the current application?
No, I didn't expect that. I didn't think about it, actually, I didn't realize that, that was gonna be an issue. I never thought about it in
Right.
terms of that,
And that's my feeling.
right,
It was not my intent
right,
to have that piece, that element,
right,
do what it's doing in the discussion that we're having.
right,
No way. My intent was as of January 1, 2024. It's
Right.
just that those words were not put into that paragraph.
right. Yeah, it's hard to get there, it's just, you just wanna do right, right.
Well, so let me ask, to Colleen's point about, having a conversation with town council, let's say there was no issues presented from legal.
Right, yeah, then
Which-
that's fine then.
I
Yeah.
don't believe should be, because my belief,
Right, yeah,
I understand the authority of a board of health, in the
Right.
state of Massachusetts,
right,
especially a board that has no charter.
right,
Our town has no charter. We have tremendous amount of authority. We have the authority to create, amend, modify, and enforce regulations.
right,
And
Yeah.
this is not something dramatic, in my view, that dramatically changes the structure of what tobacco regulations that we created are intended to do. The intent of the overall regulation is to make sure that the entities that have a tobacco license are out there selling the product correctly, selling it to the correct people, validating who they're selling and what they're selling is proper based on the guidelines, not only for us, but really now the state of Massachusetts has stepped in and they have
Right.
guidelines. So that is to me the overall intent of what our tobacco regulations are supposed to do. As much as we've stated it, we don't
Right,
personally like tobacco. If it were up to me personally.
Right.
But it isn't allowed, so we just want to make sure it's being done correctly, legally, and properly. That's our role. But this specific element that's happening,
right,
that's creating a problem, is not going to do a dramatic change to the tobacco regulations.
right.
My
But
view.
to Colleen's, point, that perhaps we should just discuss it with,
I don't understand, I don't mind.
yeah. I mean, I think that just so that we're not burning our
Mhm.
bridges.
Yep.
Before we.
Yep.
You know,
Utilize the resource.
In addition, I'd also like to get, if we can, we're still a member of the Mass Association of Health Boards.
Yeah.
Okay. They're kind of an overriding authority as well in the state of Massachusetts. They kind of help local boards of health with issues such as this as well. I'd like to get their take on it. I did send an email to them a couple of weeks ago.
mhm.
I've had this happen before and it hasn't
Already
made
got
me
any
feel
answer.
good. I have no answer. I actually ended up having a call. I spoke to one of the higher ups.
Right,
It was I don't know what, at the time they were going through some portal changes and modifications, but I think you might have to make a phone call and try to get somebody.
Okay.
What do we pay? $100 a year? For
Yeah.
that? Right. So we're a member.
Yes.
The other thing is, and I don't know if you know this, I tried to actually look up their MAHB manual on their website, but you need a password
oh,
to open it.
No, I got a copy of it.
You have the password.
Yes.
Great. So at some point I'll get that from you because that manual outlines
right,
a lot of different things, including authoritatively
yeah,
what the local boards of health in the state of Massachusetts
okay.
cannot do. And they're a guiding force in the state.
Right,
Right. I think that viewpoint is pertinent as well.
right.
Would you? So it sounds like you're kind of concurring.
Yeah,
that the intent
yeah,
is not-
right, I hear that, but I just think that it's good to get all
Okay.
all our ducks in a row, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, because I hate to get smacked upside the head. You know, thinking because we're trying to be good. No, I don't want to. You know, we're trying to be kind and,
Well,
uh,
from my perspective, it's not out of kindness.
no, but you know, doing the right thing, I guess.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to do what I believe is,
The
I'll
right
use the
thing.
word fair.
Right,
What was really the just thing
right,
to do? Because in my view, it was not my intent to make that element
right,
do this to a business that
Right.
had already been approved at a time when it didn't exist in the regulations.
right,
And we knew it was potentially coming. We had the knowledge.
right,
I personally was aware of that place going up. I knew
Right.
what it was gonna be.
yeah,
Didn't dawn on me at all that, hey, wait a minute, these things we're talking about,
yeah, right,
this entity could be affected, because if I had, we probably
told
would have
them.
included them
we could have
in the
told them,
communication
Right.
and said, hey, FYI, this is what's coming.
right,
If in the case where we had communicated it to them and they did nothing, that's a different story. But they didn't have the opportunity to do anything, because if they had, I'll bet you they would have submitted the application in 2023 and we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
All right, so do you want to reach out to town council or do you want to send me what you have for town council's review?
I can tell you what my suggested phrasing, and we could just phrase it as that we're looking to make this amendment to the, as opposed to waiver language.
Okay,
We're looking at an amendment to a particular paragraph in the regulation. And do they see any issue from their perspective with inserting that phrase?
That we're gonna get, that's gonna create other people coming to the forefront too.
As far as,
Well, somebody else that was building a place and thinking of doing stuff and blah, blah, blah.
but there is no other entity whose project got approved in 2023 that is looking to sell tobacco.
Okay.
That's why I say this is a one-off, and this will never happen again, because any project coming forward after, later on, they're all approvals in 2024. That's why I'm not concerned personally
About
about
30,
one on
35.
Eastern Street.
Okay.
that project was formally approved by the town amended, and I'll say planning board, because that's where it gets the blessing to move forward in 2024.
Right.
Thoughts?
I disagree. I disagree with waiver language, period. It doesn't exist now in our regulation. And I feel that, including waiver language also includes potential for litigation. Like, well, rely upon town council's, opinion as far as, what the board's proposing and see what town council's opinion is.
And because actually what we're proposing is not waiver language. We're looking to amend an existing regulation. Same thing we did when we added those updates. We amended a set of regulations that we had in place. We didn't go to public hearing
So you're
for
not
that.
gonna call it a waiver.
Oh, no, this
No,
is
but-
an amendment. This is a language amendment, an amendment to the regulations. No, not a waiver, no.
Right.
And it's specific
To
to
that.
that one
Right.
area. Because it sounds like, I think we're in agreement on the intent of what that was intended to do in terms of when it was to take effect. That's,
It's also limiting it to a sole applicant.
if
Just
five
I'd
other,
just be curious as to council's opinion on it.
well, and if five other people had come to us, 5 other projects in 2023 had been approved, and 5 projects were affected, we wouldn't be talking about just one. It just so happens it's one. But the same mindset, I'd be applying to the 5. If under the same conditions. So it's not the applicant, it's the nature of the situation, the circumstances surrounding it. Whether it was 1, whether it could have been 5. I'd be taking the same viewpoint.
I think it's always good to get clarification. from
I agree.
council,
Yeah.
You know, too.
Especially,
to that.
yeah, especially in this case.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So we probably kind of tied, so did we actually tie in the second?
I think so.
All right.
Yeah,
They-
I
they
think so
kind of
too.
fell hand in hand.
Yeah,
Yeah,
They
they
kind
were
of-
part of the
okay.
same.
so next meeting,
Oh, yeah, when is the next meeting?
so the next meeting would be July 24th.
July 24th, and I'm at the Cape, so I'll sit out on my patio and do it with my computer like I did.
I'm not gonna be at that meeting.
Good for you.
You have a Vacation?
No, prior engagement.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hope it's a fun. one.
Yeah, prior engagement.
So 7:30,
7:30. Do I have a motion?
you step
So
down.
move.
Well, I do that after somebody motions.
I make a move that we have the meeting, what is it again? 22nd, 27th, 24th.
Yeah, bingo. July 24th.
July 24th. Oh, yeah, there it is.
I'll step down and second the motion. All in favor?
I
Okay, everyone, thank you very much.
got that done.
Good night. Thank you all.
Another cookie to put in your bag.
Oh, no, take them with you.
No, that's all right. You can.
Everyone take some cookies with you?
Want to have one more cookie?